Hello and welcome back to our YouTube channel. This is our second video in the Proxmox series. In this video, we will look at some basic configurations of the Proxmox server. The agenda for today's video would be to discuss the user management that would include realms, roles, user groups, resource pools, two-factor authentication, and the network management. That should include adding the virtual interfaces. Let's start with the user management. So here is our console for the Proxmox server. I have entered the IP address and the port number and have logged in. The first view that we get is of our global configuration. So here on the left hand side we can see data center, and under data center we can see our Proxmox node. The data center holds the global configuration, which will include these many options, and then we can perform some configurations on the server level. Under permissions we can manage the users, their realms, roles, pools, two-factor authentications, and API tokens. And this is going to be the global configuration. So let's first start with the realms. Realms are the authentication methods. By default, Linux PAM standard authentication and Proxmox VE authentication server are available. We can add external identity sources for authentication. The external sources available are Active Directory, LDAP server, and OpenID Connect server. The realms can be configured through the web UI of Proxmox or through CLI in the /etc/pve/domains.cfg file. So in this video, I am going to use the default realm, that is the Linux PAM standard authentication. Talking about the roles, so roles is simply a list of privileges. Proxmox VE comes with a number of predefined roles which satisfy most requirements. You can see the list of available roles along with their privileges here. So we have administrator, no access, PVE admin, auditor, data store admin, then data store user. Similarly, we have a lot of roles here. Talking about the users and group configuration. So here under the users configuration tab, we can add or remove the users. We can edit the existing users as well. So for adding the user, we can click on add user, enter details, like I can create a test user now, give it a name as test and test. Since I have created one test group here, so that's here. Let's select that. I will show you in a moment how to create the groups. Then the email address, test@gmail.com. Expiry, we can set it to expire on 30th of May. And then the comments, test user. We have some advanced configuration where we can add the key IDs. We will talk about it in a moment. Add. So once we add, we have the test user here. We can also manage the users under the /etc/pve/user.cfg file. Talking about the groups, each user can be a member of several groups. Groups are the preferred way to organize access permissions. You should always grant permissions to the groups instead of the individual users. That way, you will get a much more maintainable access control list. So to create a user group, go to Groups, Create, just give it a name and a comment. So like I have created a user test group here, and we can see the users who are the part of the test group, the cyber vault and the test. Talking about the resource pools, a resource pool is a set of virtual machines, containers, and storage devices. It is useful for permission handling in cases where certain users should have controlled access to a specific set of resources, as it allows for a single permission to be applied to a set of elements rather than having to manage this on a per resource basis. Resource pools are often used in tandem with groups so that the members of a group have permissions on a set of machines and storage. We can create the resource pools here by clicking on Create, give it a name and comment. And then we can apply this resource pool permission to the user. Now talking about the two-factor authentication. We can add an extra layer of security by challenging users with a second password or OTP while they are trying to log into the Proxmox server. There are two ways of configuring two-factor authentication in Proxmox. Number one, it can be required by the authentication villain either via the time-based OTP or YubiKey OTP. In this case, the newly created user needs to have their keys added immediately as there is no way to log into the server without this second factor. Alternatively, users can choose to opt in to two-factor authentication later on, even if the villain does not enforce it. Available second factor authentication methods are user configured time-based OTP, web auth, recovery keys, and YubiKey OTP. So let's add time-based OTP for the user test. For that, first we have to go to Williams, then edit the William and enable the time-based OTP. Click OK. We will keep the time step and the secret length as default. Now go to two-factor, add TOTP, and select the user test, then description two-factor for test. We can use any time-based OTP application. So in my Android phone, I have Google Authenticator. I will open that, click on add, then click on scan QR code, and I will scan this QR code here, and it's here. Once you are done scanning, you will see Proxmox VE and your username and server here. Then you need to enter the first verification code here. So the first verification code for me is 265897 and click on add. So once you click on add, it will add the second factor authentication for the user test here, and then it will challenge every time the user test tries to log in. Since my server does not have internet access right now, I will not be able to add it, but this is how you can do it. This was about the user management. Now, the next topic is network management. Here we will see how we can add more virtual interfaces so that we can segregate our VM network and we can have multiple VM nets available. For that, we will move from the global configuration to the server specific configuration. We will select our node here, that is Proxmox 1, and then here we have network. Go to network. Right now you can see fault bridge interface, and this is my NIC card installed on my server. And my bridge interface is in the subnet 192.168.1.0/24. And the IP address that is assigned to my bridge interface is 192.168.1.11 that I am using for accessing the server as well. We will create some more virtual bridge interfaces. So for that, go to create, click Linux bridge, enter the name. So VMBR looks good to me, but if you want, you can add, you can change this name. You can change it to 2 or like 200, whatever you like. But for me, I will keep it as default. Enter the IP address here. So I will put it in the 10 segment 10.10.10.10/24. I will put it as 11 because my other NIC is also having the 11. So for ease of management, I will keep it as 11. We can keep the default gateway as blank and rest everything as blank and just save it. Since I do not have more ports available on my server, that's why I kept the bridge ports as blank. You can see that the new page interface is available for me. Now to apply the configuration, there are two methods. Either we can reboot the server or we can click on apply configuration. Since in a production network, rebooting is not feasible every time, we can click on apply configuration. Basically what it does, it will just shut down the interface and bring it back up instead of the complete server reboot. So click yes. It has just reloaded these network cards and we have the bridge interface up and running. And we can select this interface while we are configuring the VMs or inside our existing VMs as well. So that's about today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys enjoyed watching the video, kindly give it a thumbs up and do like, share and subscribe. In case you have any further information available or have any questions, just put down in the comments section below. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.